Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing just released some amazing news for the semiconductor space for companies like NVIDIA, AMD, and so on. For those not familiar with TSMC, this is the giant manufacturer of semiconductor chips. Now, talking about giant manufacturers, if you want to watch the biggest manufacturer of semiconductor videos, make sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe button. All jokes aside, in today's episode, we are going to take a closer look at that bullish news and then some other news impacting TSMC, and finally, my final thoughts if I would buy this company at these levels. So let's get started.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so we can see TSMC right now is doing amazing year to date. The stock is up over 84%. And one of the big reasons is obviously they manufacture all these AI chips for NVIDIA. So they do have that nice tailwind. Outside of that, we are kind of getting or escaping this over inventory issue we had in the mobile business, that we had in the computer business, in the laptop business. So as all these tailwinds are kind of pushing TSMC to kind of increase the utilization rates of their manufacturing plays. And this is by far the leader in this market right now. So all that is driving TSMC to see a nice return year to date. So I mentioned earlier on that we did see some great news for the semiconductor market, and that is TSMC, for those that are not familiar, reports its monthly revenue to investors. And most recently, they just reported their September numbers, which were up roughly 39.6% year over year. Now, for January to September, which is the first 9 months of the year over year increased about revenue increased about 31.9% year over year. So we can see 2024 is becoming such a strong year for TSMC, much higher than 2023, and this is going to be a record year for them. So this month they grew 39%, last month they grew 33%, in July they grew 44%, in April they even grew 59%. So we can see a healthy trend in the semiconductor market. And remember, the orders that are being placed now and the chips that are being manufactured now are not chips that are being sold this quarter, because after they get manufactured, they still need to get put in components. The components still needs to be tested. So it takes a few months and a few quarters for this to actually show in revenue for those other semiconductor players. So if TSMC is seeing this, it means in the next few quarters, we should start to see a nice bullish trend, or we should continue to see a nice bullish trend in the semiconductor market, right? Because if you have kind of some weakness in the semiconductor space, you will most likely see a decrease in TSMC orders. The great thing also is TSMC last quarter gave us the guidance for quarter three, and quarter three would be July, August, and September. And now we have those three numbers. So those three numbers in their previous guidance would be somewhere between $22.4 to $23.2 billion. But these new numbers are actually, the ones that we saw are much higher than that. It's actually $23.6 billion. So about $300 million more than what, almost $400 million more than what TSMC guided on their top end. And it's actually higher than what analysts are expecting. So again, this, while it is great news for TSMC, it's just a great, healthy news for the semiconductor market. So we like to see that a lot. So overall, very bullish for companies like NVIDIA, for AMD, and anybody that's dealing in the consumer space and providing semiconductor solutions for that industry. Now, moving into another news that we had yesterday or 2 days ago, October 8th, TSMC and NVIDIA announced more about this cuLitho computational platform that NVIDIA has created. So for those that are not familiar, like I mentioned, TSMC is the world leader in semiconductor manufacturing, and it's moving to production with NVIDIA's computational lithography platform called cuLitho. Now, a critical step in the manufacture of computer chips or any type of advanced chips is computational lithography. And this is like a form of simulation, if you want to just kind of dumb it down a little bit. It's a form of simulation which requires complex computation. And typically, it is mentioned by NVIDIA that a foundry has dedicated massive data centers for this computation. And this step has normally been bottlenecked by computer architectures, which are mainly CPU data centers. But as we're seeing right now, it's not just the advancement of AI, but it's also the advancements of accelerated computing. So computational lithography is almost the most is also the most compute intensive workload in the entire semiconductor design and manufacturing process. And now it is being accelerated thanks to this library and platform NVIDIA has made, which, for example, a 350 NVIDIA H100 GPU based system can now replace 40,000 GPUs, reducing cost and space and power. So this is how Jensen mentions, the more you buy, the more you save. And I mean, I think this is very important to showcase that it's not just AI that is feeling the need for these GPUs. It's also accelerated computing, which helps reduce the cost, space, and power as we saw before. But this doesn't mean that AI is not being used here. NVIDIA has also developed algorithms to apply generative AI to enhance the value of cuLitho platform. So we can see how NVIDIA is firing in all cylinders with their accelerated computing and their AI solutions, which in my opinion bodes well for NVIDIA stock and for TSMC as they are going to be using this technology. Now, another big news that came out on earlier this week was that AMD is to become a major customer of TSMC's Arizona facility when they start producing, I believe, later next year in 2025. So this is great news as obviously TSMC is building a new plant in Arizona. And you need to have customers ahead of time. We already heard Apple is one of their customers. Now we're seeing here AMD. So this is great. The more utilization rates you have right at the beginning, the better revenue and the better cost performance you're also seeing out of that facility. Talking about Arizona on October 4th, so about 6 days ago, Amkor Technology and TSMC announced that they have signed some form of understanding to collaborate and bring advanced packaging and test capabilities to Arizona, further expanding the region's semiconductor ecosystem. So this is actually pretty exciting for me as I am an American, and it's great to see a lot of this manufacturing coming back inland. So under the agreement, TSMC will contract turnkey advanced packaging and test services from Amkor in their plant facility in Arizona. So this is very important because if you are looking for maybe just a pure build US chip, they can go with TSMC and then partner up with Amkor to do the advanced packaging here in the United States as well. Now, some other great news for TSMC that came out earlier this month on October 1st is Samsung, their biggest competitor at the moment. That could change in a few years, but Samsung is facing a lot of yield problems with their upcoming 2nm nodes, and they are also losing some clients to TSMC. So this is just more bullish sense of, hey, look, this market is very, very hard, and TSMC right now is a big winner. Now, I just kind of want to talk about stock price targets, as maybe some of you might enjoy that. The high right now is about 250. The low is 170. The average is about 210. Remember, as I am recording, the stock is around 187, but it could be very, very volatile within the next few days as we do have a lot of AI events happening. So let me know, are you buying TSMC at these levels? I personally would say I'm not a huge buyer at these levels because I think for a company like this, right, this is a mature player, it definitely has growth opportunity. I don't really like the risk to reward ratio. Now, by saying this, I'm not saying I'm bearish in TSMC. I'm not saying I would bet against TSMC. I'm not saying that TSMC can't go higher. I believe it can go higher, but I think I have better opportunities to make more money elsewhere. This might be a safer play. This might be a healthy play, but it's not my style of play. And for that reason, I personally wouldn't buy at these levels. TSMC, I maybe, let's look at the year-to-date chart. If we see those kind of August lows in the low 150s, that might be a little bit more attractive to me. But a PE ratio forward 1 year of 22.4, when some other AI growth stocks can give me maybe mid 25s, I'll probably prefer that method. The other reason is TSMC usually trades very, very similar to the semiconductor ETF. One that I follow is SMH. And right now, that's not the case. Right now, TSM is outperforming. I eventually believe the semiconductor ETF will catch up either by it outperforming a lot better or TSMC being quiet for the next few quarters until the semiconductor ETF catches up. As we can see historically, VanEck tends to outperform, and for that reason, I right now would rather buy a semiconductor ETF than TSMC. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.